I watched that 12-part story, so you don't have to. That's Brit, and she's letting us know that the woman that she divorced ended up transitioning during their divorce. They ultimately went into a custody battle, and she was the one that won primary custody. Now, they met back in July 2018 on Twitter. They started exchanging messages. At the time, Brittany was going through a breakup, and she said that eventually she just started trauma dumping on the girl. She named her Melissa, and she just started telling her everything. She was just like, I'm going through this, I'm going through that. And Melissa became a big source of like support and like positivity for Brittany, right? And so she kind of just like really was soaking it up. As they continued talking, Brittany ended up finding out that Melissa was actually married prior. Now, she told her that the wife basically like robbed her, took everything that she had, and like she never saw her again. Brittany took that into consideration, but because of how much she liked her, she kept moving forward with the relationship. Now, at the time, Melissa was living in Texas, and so Brittany's like, you know what, I'm gonna move to Texas as well. She's like, but let me go check it out for a week. So she goes for a week, and she's like visiting Mel. She's staying with her for that week, and the vibes are off. They're not getting along. They're actually arguing. She's telling her like, I don't understand, like, why are the vibes off? Like, we should be getting along. And Melissa's response was like, oh, you clearly have never been actually in love before. That's a honeymoon phase. That's not real. Real love doesn't work like that. But Brittany's like, no, something's wrong. Like, she felt like maybe she was doing something wrong, but she was definitely sure, like, in her gut that something was off. So she gets back to Florida where she was living at the time. She gets a FaceTime call from Melissa. And Melissa's like, oh my God, girl, I have to tell you something. I'm so sorry. And she's crying. And Brittany's like, okay, what's going on? And she's like, I have to tell you I've been married. And Brittany's like, I know that you've been married. You told me. She robbed you, blah, blah, blah. And Melissa's like, no, not that one. Another one. I'm actually currently married right now. And Brittany's like, what? What do you mean? How are you married? And so the girl goes on to explain that both marriages were a fraud. They were never actually based on love or real marriage. One of the marriages was strictly for insurance. So I wanted to make sure that, I married her. It was supposed to be a 30-day annulment. And then she just never divorced me. She never like moved on, right? And so she's just like, so you've been married twice and you're currently married? And Melissa's just telling her like, it's just paperwork. It's just paperwork. It's not a real marriage. Brittany first heard this. She, of course, acknowledged that there were some red flags, but she felt actual sympathy for the girl. She was just like, damn, this is bad. Like, you've been in two really bad situations. And so the move to Texas was already in full swing. Like, she had already talked to her job. So they met in October 2018. Brittany moves to Texas. Initially, the plan was for Brittany to live in a place that her job had provided for her because Melissa's lifestyle was just not going to match her. I mean, first of all, Melissa's vegan. Her place is really small, and they were already just arguing way too much. Like, they just were not getting along. And at this time, Brittany was like, I should have just left. But she's like, but honestly, I felt like I committed to her. I felt like I had already made this promise to come and live with her, and I just had to figure it out, right? So when Melissa came to her and said, hey, let's get a townhouse, Brittany was like, okay, maybe us getting more space will actually resolve some of our issues and allow us to breathe in this relationship. So they start looking for a townhouse. So they get the townhouse, and Brittany goes to go furnish the entire place, right? And so she's taking her time. She's making sure she gets everything she needs the way she wants it. And Melissa comes up to her and she goes, hey, we're having a house party. You need to hurry up and get all this furniture and like make sure the house is looking good. And Brittany's looking at her like, well, if that's the case, come with me and buy all the furniture. Like, I'm going to buy it at my timing. I'm not about to rush just because you threw a housewarming. Housewarming happens. Mostly Melissa's friends that show up because, again, Brittany just moved to Texas. She doesn't know anybody. And so her friends show up for the housewarming party. Out of left field, Melissa gets down on one knee and she proposes to Brittany. Now, Brittany at this time, everything in her body is screaming, do not marry this girl. Do not marry this girl. She felt like she didn't want to embarrass her in front of her friends. She was like, you know what? I can dial this back later. I can have a conversation with her later about how we need to, discuss things before we move forward with an engagement, right? So she said yes in the moment. So it all happened in December 2018 when they got engaged. Now, mind you, at the time, like I said, Melissa was still legally married, right? And so now they had to start the divorce process. So Brittany started helping her file for divorce, and she started to like move along the process. Shortly after the proposal, Brittany starts telling her family, hey, I'm getting engaged, da, 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 da. Immediately, all her family is like, no, that's weird. Just met this girl. They all have negative, reactions to it. And mind you, Melissa never even reached out to Brittany's side of the family to tell her she was getting engaged. When Brittany went back and told Melissa, like, hey, this is how my family is reacting, she was like, no, they're just jealous, da da da. She was just feeding her all of this stuff to the point that Brittany thought the best thing for her to do was actually to cut off most of her family and friends and be like, you know what, you guys just don't understand me. And this played into what Melissa genuinely wanted, which was for her to be isolated even more. Every single time she cuts off somebody, Melissa's like, I'm so proud of you. Good job. Like, it's buying her more favor with Melissa. It's making Brittany feel like, okay, I'm doing the right thing. Like, so before they got engaged, Melissa had told Brittany, like, hey girl, like when I buy you a ring, after the proposal, I'm gonna want a truck. At that time when they were talking about it, Brittany's thinking like this is a few years in the future. She's like, yeah, I don't see why that isn't something that we can exchange. But when she ended up proposing like 6-7 months after they first met, obviously Brittany was not ready to make that financial, decision, but she felt pressure to follow through with her word. So she was like, okay, let me like actually go through with this. And at the same time, Melissa's over there showing her laptop every 5 seconds, like, I think this is the truck I want. So sure enough, she goes and signs for a truck for Melissa to get. Right after the whole engagement, Melissa starts talking about, let's have a baby. Let's have a baby. I want to have a baby with you. And at this point, Brittany's like, whoa, like, calm down. This is a lot of change all at once. Like, I just need a moment to, like, get my grasp of reality right now. And Melissa's like, what are you talking about? Like, a kid would complete you. You always talk about your mental health. This would really like bring it all together. Like, this will bring the fulfillment that we're looking for in life, right? And so after thinking about it for a little bit, Brittany's like, you know what? Sure. Like, I always wanted kids. Let's go ahead and do it, right? So they start going to the fertility clinic. Now at this point, Brittany's paying for the truck. She paid to furnish the entire townhouse. Now she's paying for the fertility clinic and for the semen. Money is just hemorrhaging out of her account, and she doesn't even realize it right now. Mind you, Melissa's not offering to pay for anything at any point of this process, right? They end up having 3 failed attempts at the clinic. After the 3rd attempt, Brittany's like, you know what? I just need a break. I can't do this right now. Brittany actually finds out that she needs to have another procedure done. And so she goes ahead and takes care of that. And then COVID hits shortly after that, right? Things are just getting even more and more volatile. Mind you, they're arguing so much. All Brittany's thinking about is, I do not want to go forward with this engagement. And every time they get in an argument, she's using that moment to be able to tell her, I don't want to be with you. But at the same time, even if she does end the relationship, where's she going to go? The other room. And so she's just feeling extremely trapped. And then when she would go try to talk to Melissa about it and be like, hey, like, we're really not getting along. What can we do about it? Melissa would tell her, like, this is like 90 Day Fiance. We're getting to know one another. Like, you need to just like let things unfold. Like, you're not allowing me to love you. You're not giving me as much love as I'm giving you. Like, you need to understand this is what real love is. It's not all about just like getting along. And so she's really trying to like warp her perception of what a good, healthy relationship looks like. Around this time, Brittany said that they were on the internet looking for something. She didn't really specify what it was, but at one point or another, they ended up on a transgendered website. So while they're looking at these websites, a conversation about Melissa's gender identity kind of comes up, and they start discussing it. And this is when Brittany kind of like pauses, and she says, well, if you have questions about your identity, I think we should pause on having a child. Like, you should really know yourself and be comfortable in who you are and how you present yourself to the world before we bring a child into this world. Melissa immediately shuts down the entire conversation. She's like, nope, never want to be a man. I'm a woman, period. Now we're in July 2020, and Brittany gets pregnant. Around that same time, I think she was like 6 months pregnant, Melissa eventually pressures and convinces Brittany to go ahead and get married down at the courthouse with just them and the Justice of Peace. They go through with that. And in May 2021, she gave birth to her beautiful baby boy. Now, even though Brittany did not want to take Melissa's last name, she did end up doing it. Even though the stay-at-home order had been lifted at this point, it's like 2022 now, Brittany was still working from home. She had a corporate job that she can still work from home while Melissa had gone back to work, right? Now, she was a stay-at-home mom. Her baby was a little colic. She was having a really hard time adjusting to this new lifestyle, and things were just getting really, really hard for her. Not to mention, she was going through postpartum. She was feeling just so overwhelmed. So Melissa ends up suggesting to Brittany, why don't you just be a stay-at-home mom? Quit your job, just focus on the baby. I'll take care of the household, right? So after some reluctancy, eventually Brittany does quit her job. She ends up just being a stay-at-home mom. But then eventually she starts to notice, like, hey, I have to ask for money. I have to ask for groceries. I have to ask, hey, have you noticed we don't have this and this and this in the house? She started to notice like things in the household were not really being taken care of. They were just paying the bills, but nothing was really being poured into the household. And so she's sitting there wondering, like, what the hell is going on, right? Like, are we actually struggling? Brittany's still having to pay for a lot of things. Even though she doesn't have money, she still has to make things happen, right? So she's like, you know what, screw this. I'm going to start looking for a job again. She looks for a job. She ends up finding one in Austin. And at this time, Melissa also wanted to transition into a corporate position, and she ends up landing a job in Austin as well. What Melissa's job did offer, however, was a week to come to Austin and be able to look for childcare and for housing. So while Melissa was over there doing training, Brittany was running around looking for housing, looking for childcare for their baby. They end up finding one really good place. They apply immediately. They really loved it. But because of Melissa's terrible credit score, they end up getting denied. When she found out that they were denied, Brittany had like a panic attack in the car, right? And so Melissa's like, what about that other place that we saw? Like, we can talk to the guy. Maybe he'll like work with us, right? But the thing was that the other house was in another part of the city, and then it was way more than the house that they just got got rejected from. So they go to that other more expensive house. Sure enough, the guy's like, sure, you can live here, but it's going to be $4,000 deposit. Brittany has to pay for the moving truck. She has to pay for the rental deposit. She needs to pay for the deposit for the child care. So she is absolutely stressed out. All those people that she had recently cut off and said, like, I can't do this with you anymore, she ended up reaching back out to them and being like, hey, I need my people. She said it's no secret that her family is well off. They have no problem helping her. Brittany has to be in Austin in the next 2 weeks. So she looks at Melissa and she's like, how much money do you have to put towards this move? Melissa looks her dead in the face and says, I have $0 to put towards this move. And so Brittany's like, what the hell? So I have to figure out how to move all of us myself. Both of their jobs were only offering relocation bonuses and sign-on bonuses once they got to Austin. They weren't going to do it beforehand. So they had to front the move. So what did Brittany do? She took out a loan. She had no other choice, right? So they start packing up their entire lives. The day before they're supposed to leave to Austin, Melissa looks at Brittany and she goes, why don't I just take the baby and the dog? I'll drive down to Austin. You just stay here with the movers, pack everything up. We'll meet each other in Austin, right? And so, you know what? Brittany's like, that's fine. So Melissa heads out early that night. Brittany's at the house packing everything up. The movers show up. She's helping them pack everything up. Finally, everything's in the car. She's headed towards Austin. Her and Melissa end up getting into a heated argument. She doesn't tell us what it's about, but it gets to the point that Brittany tells Mel, like, don't even be there when I get there. Like, don't even unpack your stuff. I don't want to be in this marriage anymore. So it's December 2022 now. Brittany's working on amending all of her relationships that she cut off a few years ago. She's working, Melissa's working, the baby's in daycare, and they're in a flow, right? But at the same time, nothing has changed as far as the dynamic of the relationship. Melissa comes to Brittany and she goes, hey, I think I'm going to go through the process of defeminization. This was the first time Brittany had ever heard of that term. So she asked her, so what does that mean? Are you transitioning? And she's like, no, I'm not transitioning. It's just going to be a change of voice and a change in physical appearance. At this time too, Melissa was really heavy in the gym as well, so she was starting to look really bulky. When Brittany asked her, like, so you're not transitioning, Melissa was like, no, I'm not about to become a he, him. This is just to have a better body in the gym. That's it. And so Brittany's like, okay, I just want to, be clear about this because we do have a child together and I don't want him to feel confused. So Brittany didn't understand Melissa's decision. She did, support it, obviously. Now, before she had met Melissa already had a bunch of face tattoos and tattoos all over, but they had discussed that Melissa wouldn't get any more face tattoos, right? So when she went to Dallas, Melissa ends up coming back with a gigantic face tattoo on her face. And so Brittany's looking at her like, why would you do that? You don't care about me. You don't care about your kid. Before this, Brittany had already mentally left the relationship. In her mind, the marriage was over, right? So at this point, she told Melissa, point blank period, this marriage is done. You can live in that room. I'm going to live in this room. This rent is too high for me to afford it on my own, but this marriage is done for. And Brittany told her, like, you date people, I date people, let's just move on with our lives. Let's keep it cordial, don't be messy, just move on with your life, right? And so sure enough, they start doing that. Shortly after that, Brittany actually ends up meeting this new girl named Ashley. Now, to this day, she's still with Ashley. She said they had a whirlwind romance. It was love at first sight. It's been a soft life. She's loved every single moment from then till now, right? And so one night, she comes home late from a date with Ashley. Melissa tried to say something about it, but Brittany in her head was like, girl, get out of my business. And then she asked her, like, hey, what is that? Is that a hickey on your neck? And Brittany was honest. She said she lied. She did not tell her the truth. She said, no, it's something else. The next morning, she's in the bedroom with the baby, taking care of him because he was like a little fussy. And Melissa texts her and she goes, hey, when are you coming out of the baby's room? And she's like, oh, I'm not coming out of the baby's room right now. Like, I'm going to stay here for a bit. Then I'm going to come out and do some breakfast. And then Melissa's like, don't worry, I'll take care of breakfast. Brittany finally comes out of the baby's room and come to find out Melissa was sitting there looking through Brittany's phone, reading her text messages, all that. All of a sudden, Melissa starts going off like, you whore, you bee, like, da-da-da-da-da, I can't believe you did it. Brittany's so confused. She's like, you know that I was dating. Why are you acting brand new right now? Melissa ends up leaving. She takes her watch with her. Brittany's just sitting there like, what the hell just happened? So she calls Ashley. She tells Ashley what happened. And at the same time, Melissa's calling her every now and then, going off on her. Because now she's not just going through the conversation between her and Ashley. She's going through the conversations between her friends, her family, everything, right? So she'll call her and she'll go off. Brittany's just like, yo, I feel unsafe. Like, I don't think you're stable right now. Like, I think I'm going to go check myself in at a hotel for a few days. Ashley comes and joins her there. It was her safe space. Of course, she was going to be there. At the same time, Melissa's demanding that Brittany hand back the wedding ring that she gave her. She's like, I bought you a BMW. I need to, like, make these payments right. Da, da, da. And then Brittany's looking at her like, bought me a BMW? When and where? Like, this is news to me, And so then she's like, yeah, give me the ring, give me the ring. And so she's like, girl, relax. Eventually she goes back home. They're just, like avoiding one another. She's going to work. So then Melissa comes to Brittany one day and she goes, hey, can you watch our kid for the rest of the week? I'm going to go and check myself into a mental health institution and I'm going to take care of myself. And so Brittany's like, 100%, go take care of yourself. It's all good. So Brittany's like, I don't know what kind of mental health institution she went to, but I don't know anyone that allows you to keep your phone. The entire week that Melissa was gone, she was still texting her, hounding her, harassing her, asking her questions. When Melissa comes back home, things are still hostile. It actually only gets worse. At this point, we are in July 2023 now. Brittany's like, I've had enough. I'm filing for divorce. Before that, she had already offered Melissa so many options, like, hey, you can move out. Now, she applied for a very simple divorce, no financials, nothing. She didn't even have a lawyer representing her. Now, when the paperwork got presented to Melissa, for whatever reason, Melissa went and got a lawyer. And then she like sent a response back to Brittany. And Brittany's like, why'd you go get a lawyer? You just complicated everything. And Melissa's like, oh, you didn't check the box about child support or child custody. And Brittany's like, yeah, because in Texas it's equal, it's 50-50. And so because of that paperwork, Melissa decided to go get a lawyer. So now Brittany had to go get a lawyer. Now at this exact time in July 2023, while Brittany is now beginning her divorce proceedings with Melissa, her girlfriend Ashley is also going through a divorce with this other woman named Caroline. Now, Caroline filed for divorce in May. In July of 2023, she found out about Ashley and Brittany dating and being a couple. Caroline and her sister Kathy started making connections and getting to know none other than Melissa. They start leveraging information, they start exchanging information, and start giving each other like clues on how to, further cause damage in their prospective divorce proceedings. At this time, Brittany and Ashley are completely unaware of the fact that Caroline and Melissa have connected and are exchanging information. In August 2023, Brittany's lawyer is able to serve Melissa with a 30-day notice to vacate the house. Brittany's so kind. She's like, hey, like, let me give you my kids, like furniture set, a bed set, all these things, because I'm going to keep the house. I might as well like help you out. And Melissa's like, I don't need that. I'll be just fine, right? She comes home one day. Her stuff is on the front lawn being sold by Melissa. Her couch, all this stuff. And Brittany's like, what the hell? You know what? I don't even care. Go ahead. If this means it's going to get you out of my house even faster and get me divorced from you even faster, I'm all for it. So now they're in the divorce proceedings, and Melissa and her lawyer are doing everything in their power to delay any type of paperwork being processed, anything like that. And then at one point, Melissa comes to Brittany. She's like, hey girl, like, I'm struggling financially. Like, it's going to be a point where you're going to have to keep our kid for a bit of time so that I can figure myself out. Melissa's like, unless we move so that I can get a better job, I'm going to need you to take care of kid for like an extended period of time. And the minute Brittany heard that, she's like, if you're having issues and you can't take care of our child, 100% I will take him full time and make sure that he is completely taken care of. One thing Brittany thought she knew about Melissa was that she was a good parent. She's like, look, you might be a bad partner, you might be a bad girlfriend, wife, fiance, all of those things, but you are a good parent. So she was like, if you're telling me that you can't handle this, I know that you're telling the truth. So time is passing, and through social media, Brittany is able to find out that Melissa was actually dating a new person named Taurus, and that the way she put two and two together was earlier in Brittany and Melissa's relationship, Melissa was really pushing for Brittany to get her name tatted on her. And Brittany was like, yeah, in the future, I can totally see myself getting your name tatted on me because you're my partner, right? So when Brittany saw on social media that this girl named Taurus was getting Melissa's name tatted on her and Melissa was getting her name tatted on her, she was like, I know where this is going, right? And then fast forward, she saw another clip of Taurus calling Melissa her credit card. And so at this point, she's like, I thought you said you were broke. Now I'm starting to see where the financial strain is coming from. So Brittany presses Melissa and she's like, hey, you have a girlfriend now. I don't understand why you're dragging out this divorce. Like, let's get a move on it. Like, what's going on? And then she also started to notice that her son was having transitional issues and that he was also like using the word mommy inappropriately. And so she asked Melissa, like, hey, where does Taurus live? Does Taurus spend time with my son? What does he call her? Based on these answers, can I meet Taurus? Mind you, every time their son came back from Melissa's house, nails not cut, hair undone, hygiene isn't there. And so she was just like, I just want to make sure my kid is good. Immediately, Melissa shuts it all down. She's like, Taurus doesn't live here. He calls her a nickname and you don't need to meet her. But then Brittany started noticing every time her kid came back from Melissa's house, nails cut, hair braided back, hygiene's on point. Even though those things were happening, Brittany was like, I still want to meet Taurus, and she was still getting denied, right? She's asking her all the time, are you transitioning? Are you transitioning? Every single time Melissa's like, no, 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 no. Then at the same time, Melissa will text Brittany and be like, haha, our son called me daddy again. And Brittany's like, did you correct him? Did you tell him like that's not correct? Blah, blah, blah. And she wasn't really like following through and correcting the child. So it's only causing more confusion for him. Mid-February, Melissa comes to Brittany and she's like, hey, I'm actually going to be switching my pronouns. I actually am going to go by he, him. Brittany's like, okay, cool. Are you going to be changing your name? Are you going to be changing what our son calls you? Melissa's like, no, I'm still going to go by Melissa and I'm not changing what my son calls me. Not even 12 days later, after Melissa told Brittany that She was changing it to he, him. She goes to pick up her son from Melissa's house. Melissa's putting their son inside of the baby seat. Their son looks at Melissa and goes, "Bye, daddy." Melissa doesn't correct him. Immediately, when Brittany heard her son call Melissa daddy, she corrected him and said, "No, no, no, call Melissa the nickname, blah, blah, blah." Brittany just thinks it's so odd that Melissa's not very forthcoming with her transition, her name change, all of these things, right? And at the same time, she's also not being forthcoming that Taurus is officially living in the house with them as well. All of a sudden, Melissa announces she's no longer going by Melissa and she now will be referred to as Melvin. So we're going to refer to him as Melvin as well. So then Melvin is like, yeah, this is me. At the same time, too, Melvin sends Brittany pictures of his top surgery as well, right? So now, out of nowhere, Brittany gets contacted by Taurus, Melvin's girlfriend. Immediately, they're DMing in TikTok. Immediately, Taurus apologizes and say, "Hey, you should have met me before all of this happened. I was around your child. I just want to apologize." Brittany asked her, "Why didn't we ever meet? What was the delay?" Da 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 da. And Brittany told her, like, "Melvin told me that you were going to throw acid on me. You were going to find me. You were going to beat me up. He literally instilled fear in me." And so Taurus was like, "I just didn't feel comfortable reaching out to you." The way that Taurus was able to find out who Brittany was because at the time Brittany was doing like subliminal tweets and saying like things about this, about her situation. And the tweet had to do with her dating a person that had multiple marriages that she didn't know about. This is when Taurus did her own research and came to find out that Brittany was not the only marriage, that there was actually 2 prior marriages. And then Taurus proceeds to tell Brittany, "I also want you to know that Melvin, Caroline, and Caroline's sister, Kathy, have all been stalking you for over a year. They've been collecting evidence." She told her they exchanged information, photos, scheduling. They try to do their best to mess up the scheduling so that life is really hard for you and for Ashley. Now, mind you, Ashley also has a kid with Caroline, and that kid is now on a schedule that is coinciding with Melvin and Brittany's child. And so they're doing their best to mess up the kids' schedule so they don't bond. But at this point, they had already bonded. All Brittany and Ashley want to do is protect the kids, right? While at the other hand, Caroline and Melvin could care less. They're just using them as pawns in the divorce to wreak havoc in Ashley and Brittany's lives. Brittany realized, like, my divorce is not being delayed solely by Melvin. It's actually being delayed by an entire group of people. Now, Brittany describes herself as a helicopter mom that's always concerned with her child. And so she would notice when he was having transitional issues, when he wasn't sleeping well, and she would always go to Melvin and be like, "Hey, how's it going at your household? Is he sleeping well? Is he having these issues? Because if he's not having issues there, then it's just something I need to deal with within my household." And so Melvin would be like, "Yeah, he's fine. Not having any issues at all." Brittany would ask Melvin, "Does he have a room? Does he have a bed? Does he have everything that he needs? Blah, 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 blah." And Melvin would respond and say, "Yeah, no, he has everything that he needs." So something inside of Brittany told her while she was talking to Taurus, like, "Let me ask about my kid's living situation over there." And Taurus told her, like, "I was really hoping that you wouldn't ask me that question." She goes ahead and sends her evidence, photos of how her Melvin was making the baby sleep on the floor. Brittany said it broke her. It was horrible living conditions, like just complete neglect and abandonment. Even on baby boy's birthday, Melvin didn't get him anything. He pretended like the birthday wasn't even happening. And when Taurus pressed him about it and said, "Hey, like, why aren't you getting your kids something?" Melvin just went on to ignore Taurus the rest of the day. And so Taurus was like, "Forget this." And she went and got baby boy a gift. Taurus also told Brittany, like, "Yeah, Melvin had your son calling me mommy from the very first day that he met me." So Melvin is just a liar, lies about everything. Mind you, at the same time, Melvin is telling the courts, "I don't have money, I don't have this, I don't have that, I don't have a job." Whole time he has 2 jobs, one to pay for his lawyer and another to pay for his surgery. So all that time that Melvin was gone working 2 jobs, who do you think was with the baby? Like, Brittany is heartbroken when she heard this. She said this was the toughest part of the entire divorce. So right after she's done talking to Taurus, immediately Brittany calls her lawyer. The lawyer picks up and goes, "Hey, I was actually just about to call you. Melvin's ready to sign the paperwork." Brittany said, "Nah, we're going to court." And the lawyer's like, "What? What's going on?" And Brittany's like, da 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 da, told her everything that Taurus told her. And the lawyer's like, "Give me a moment. I'll go ahead and start the paperwork. We're going to court." Then the lawyer tells Brittany, "If you're able to get Taurus to testify for you, it's over for." So then immediately Brittany's like, "Let me go check it out." So Brittany contacts Taurus again. She goes, "Hey girl, you've already done enough. Whether it was coming to me with this information or whether it was taking care and loving on my baby. But I was wondering, is there any way that you can testify on my behalf in court?" Taurus agrees. She's like, "Yeah, girl, I got you." Obviously, Melvin was trying to go ahead and sign the paperwork because he was aware that Taurus had gone and talked to Brittany already. At that point, him and Taurus had already broken up, right? While Brittany and Taurus are building a case and getting all the information together, Melvin is busy trying to threaten everyone from Taurus's mother, family, friends, all all of that in between, right? So the court date has arrived. Brittany pulls up with Ashley, her girlfriend, Taurus, Melvin's ex-girlfriend, and they're there to support her, but also ready to testify if necessary. Now in walks Melvin. You will never believe who Melvin walks in with. He walks in with Caroline, Ashley's ex-wife. They start with the proceedings. Taurus goes up there and testifies. Caroline goes up there and testifies. I don't know what. It was like completely irrelevant. That's what Brittany said. And then eventually the divorce is agreed upon and granted. The entire time, Melvin is showing his true colors. He's not actually worried about the divorce. He's not actually worried about the custody or anything like that. He's just worried about his job security. He just keeps saying, like, I'm about to lose my job. The judge is so confused. And then Melvin's like, and I'm going to lose my housing. And so the judge asks him, like, so you said that you're going to lose your job. Do you have anyone? Melvin's like, no. He's like, okay, you said you're going to lose your housing. Do you have another one? Melvin's like, no. Either way, Brittany's happy. She got her divorce. She's moving on with her life. The very next day, Melvin is on TikTok making threatening statements about Brittany. He's like, oh, they did something to make me lose my job, and don't even worry about it. Like, the court system is transphobic, all of this, blah, blah, blah. And then Melvin's like, oh, you know what? Matter of fact, I know they both have jobs. Ashley and Brittany have jobs. I'm going to have to see what I can do about that. So during one of the times that Ashley's kid was over at Brittany and Ashley's house, she ends up divulging Caroline and Melvin are actually living together and they're in a full-blown relationship. And at the same time, Ashley's daughter was being told to call Melvin dad. Brittany just thought it was so odd after hearing everything in court about the neglect, about how Melvin was treating his own child. She thought it was so weird that Caroline was willing to be with this person, have her child around him. Like, you must hate me that much that you're willing to be this person's supporter. She referred to her as a flying monkey, which I guess is a narcissistic term for people that are the supporters of the narcissist, that are blindly following them, usually because they're also being manipulated and not realizing it. But when it came to custody, Brittany was announced the primary parent, while Melvin would be getting weekend visitation. And then Melvin would also be responsible for paying child support to Brittany. So then right after the court date, Melvin and Caroline actually end up both losing their jobs, right? So they never paid child support. And because they never signed the paperwork, she was never able to upload the decree to the Attorney General's website and have them be able to enforce the child support that needed to be paid. So for an extended period from like October to February, she's hounding Melvin and Caroline's household. No one is paying out child support. But at the exact same time, Ashley in her divorce decree was ordered to pay child support over to Caroline. So this entire time, Ashley is sending money over here. And there's a huge chance that she actually was also supporting Melvin by sending her child support over to that house. And so it was crazy that they were getting their child support that was owed to them, but they were not paying the child support owed to Brittany. So what they're arguing over is the specific schedule that the kids are going to be on. All Ashley and Brittany want is for their two kids to be on the exact same weekend schedule, right? So when they're at our house, they're at our house. When they're at your house, they're at your house. And they just travel together. They've created a bond. They are each other's safe space. Caroline and Melvin can care less about that. All they're worried about is messing with Ashley and Brittany. And so they're arguing in court for a different schedule. And Brittany's like, look, I'll even forgive the months and months of child support that you owe me. I'll forgive all of it if you just let the kids stay on the same schedule. Please. Melvin didn't care. They still went to court and argued their way to the point that the judge was like, look, Melvin's been through a divorce. He lost custody. Just give him this one little bone. Let him have the weekend schedule. So they get the stupid weekend schedule. And Brittany's like sick to her stomach. She's like, why do you continuously do things to mess with my child's mental health? Like, what is wrong with you? When the judge finally agrees to Melvin's stupid schedule, they finally are able to upload their decree to the Attorney General's website and be able to enforce the child support moving forward. Now, that December, for whatever reason, it ended up being that her child was going to be at Melvin and Caroline's house. And so when they went over there, for whatever reason, Melvin did not allow the kid to speak to Ashley on Christmas. He completely iced them out from each other. Based on what the kid said when he came back, there had to have been some type of surgery that happened, because they said that they went to the doctors and they visited Melvin and he had bandages on him. And so it's like, you were in surgery the whole time. Like, why were you also actively making sure that I didn't talk to my kid? The entire time that the divorce is going through, the child custody is going through, Melvin and Caroline have not stopped harassing Ashley and Brittany. They are doing their best to harass them. But every time that Melvin felt like, oh, Brittany's doing too much, he would go file a harassment case against Brittany with the police. There was a time where they are supposed to communicate through this parenting app that the court has appointed to them, right? Brittany would be communicating, asking for updates, especially when her kid was in Melvin's possession. Melvin would sometimes not be on that app for months, right? And so one time she's calling, she heard that her kid wasn't feeling good, right? So she's calling the school, she's calling Melvin, no one's responding. Eventually she called the police. So I guess Melvin was like, oh my God, she's harassing me. And he went and told the police, like, she keeps calling me. She's calling you through the parent app, first of all. Second of all, she just wants to know her kid is good. And what frustrated Brittany even more was that no government agency had a current address for Melvin. Nobody knew where he lived. And at the same time, Melvin was actively trying to do his best to conceal his address, even from the courts. Brittany's over here like, I already know you live with Caroline. I don't understand what you're doing. Like, I already am aware about who you're living with. So once the judge agreed upon that schedule that Melvin was asking for, he was like, hey, we're signing this decree right now, right in front of me, because it's no reason it should have took 5 months since your divorce had been granted for this decree to be put into place. As they're leaving the courtroom, she looks at Melvin as he's walking past her, and she's like, I'm gonna get you. Melvin turns around, looks at the judge, and goes, did you hear that? Did you hear that? She said she's gonna get me. The judge just like rolls his eyes and go downstairs. Brittany is with her lawyer. They're going to go file some paperwork. Melvin is walking by, and out loud, Brittany's like, you're a B. Right? Melvin just like walks by. He's like, do you guys have cameras? Did you hear that? Is anybody willing to sign a statement that says that she called me a B? Brittany's just like, bro, get out of my face. At some point or another, Ashley ends up walking up to Melvin and being like, hey, let's just talk face to face. Like, obviously, you need to understand where Brittany's coming from. She's frustrated. You haven't been paying child support. You're not good at communicating. You don't let her talk to the son. Like, you have to understand where she's coming from, right? And Melvin is like, well, I wanted to pay the child support, but I couldn't because my lawyer told me that if I did it before today, before the decree was in place, that it would be looked at as a gift. Now, mind you, Ashley's on child support with Caroline, so she knows the guidelines as well. And she looked at Melvin and was like, that's not true. That's just simply not true. And she tried to explain it to him, but Melvin was not trying to listen. And so then eventually Ashley was like, look, I know that you'll be around my daughter. I just want to make sure that, you know, everything is copacetic. And Melvin's like, yeah, well, if your daughter needs a father figure, I'm going to make sure she has one. Ashley is like, that isn't highly inappropriate. Ashley kept it calm and collected and just walked away at that point. So when it came to the harassment case, Brittany was like, you know what, let me just call my local county and see if there's any cases against me. They said, hey, let's get you on the phone with a detective. A detective goes on and declares like, yeah, actually there is some paperwork here against you. Let me tell you what's going on, blah, blah, blah. And the detective says, yeah, we're closing all 3 cases, like they're baseless. And with the custody agreement that they had come up with, at some point in the summer, Melvin was going to get their son for about 30 days. Now, this obviously gave Brittany a lot of like heartache because she was just like, I'm not going to talk to my kid for 30 days. Like, I have to figure something out. So she's going to Melvin trying to point out, you know, where in their decree it says like you have to communicate, you have to be on the app, blah, 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 blah. Melvin's sitting there like, oh, that's not how I read it. She's like, well, you have to pay me medical bills that I upfront pay for our son in 30 days. Melvin's like, that's not how I read it. She's just like, bro, you know what? I'm just going to go get me another lawyer. So Brittany goes ahead and hires another lawyer, and they start filing motions to basically reprimand and be able to send simple messages over to Melvin because he's just not responding. And so just to say something as simple as like, hey, how's my kid doing? She's having to pay her lawyer to be the middleman. And so eventually they're able to set up something. And even before that, Brittany had approached Melvin and been like, hey, you're going to have my kid for 30 days. Can we set up a schedule so that I can speak to him? Melvin's like, oh, I'll let you know if that's something that we're going to be able to be doing. So that's when she was like, forget it. I'm just going to get a lawyer. And so the lawyer was able to establish a clear-cut guideline for how and when she gets to speak to her son. So during those 30 days, everything went smoothly. She was able to talk to her son. And at the end of the day, that's all she wanted. Brittany definitely feels like the court system failed her son, did not do a good job. But at the end of the day, she acknowledges it's backlogged. They're completely not running on an efficient system, and they're just not there to actually help, you know, families. And not even the police are there to help families. A lot of times these issues are civil matters, and police do not get involved in civil matters. And so she's like, there's no actual support system for a single mother, for a divorced mother, for somebody going through a situation like this. A good amount of time after she puts up that last part, she comes back and gives us an update. Now, I guess since she put out that story time, a bunch of women have come forward and said, hey, I've had dealings with Melvin during that 2018 to 2025 era. And a lot of them overlapped. She went to the point, I'll put a screenshot right here, all of these relationships overlapped, and one specific one overlapped over every single one. Every marriage, every relationship, everything. And it was this girl that Melvin met when they were in high school named Katrina. And it goes over a 10-year period. Every single time that he's in another relationship, he's still going back and checking with Katrina, to the point that he checks in on Katrina on her birthday and says happy birthday, but doesn't check in and say happy birthday to his own son. Mind you, there's so many themes that connect a lot of Melvin's relationships. Like, for example, Katrina also has Melvin's name tatted on her body. He lies to every single woman about how many marriages he's had or been in. Some of them know only about Brittany. Some of them only know about just one or two, never all of them. The entire time that Brittany and Melvin was married, Melvin was still hitting up Katrina, being like, oh yeah, I love you, I would be with you. Brittany knows you're the only person I would ever leave her for, yada, yada, yada. Katrina also has a child, and Melvin was trying to portray himself to Katrina's kid as if he's the stepfather. And Katrina's like, what are you even doing right now? Katrina told Brittany that Melvin used to talk and drag trans women and men so bad. He used to talk so much shit about them, only to find out that now he has transitioned himself. Katrina goes on to tell Brittany about how Melvin also had another girlfriend in high school named Megan, and he was actually beating Megan visibly. And she had bruises and injuries all the time. He would beat her at parties in front of people, and this girl's injuries, everybody knew where they came from. When you look at this chart, you basically notice over the past over 10 years, Melvin's never been single. He's never even had just one woman at a time. There's always been multiple people that he was involved with, speaking with, which also brings into question their sexual health. And so moving forward, I think what Brittany's going to be doing is going through every single one of these stories, because each one of these women, all 6 of these women have reached out, except the first wife. The first wife, she's gone. Nobody knows where she is. But every other person, including the girlfriends of people that Melvin was kind of just associated with, have all come forward and told her the truth and said, hey, share my information, right? So I think she's going to go through every single one of these relationships and kind of go into details about it. Feel free to go over to her page. It's tagged in the captions to be able to follow the story. But I just wanted to make sure that I got the first 8 stories, which is like the actual marriage and the divorce, and then the follow-up, which was the custody battle, and then ultimately this bombshell that she dropped on us, saying that not only was Melvin a lying, manipulating narcissist, but he's also just flat out a sociopath. Either way, Brittany, this is a horrible thing to go through, top to bottom. I am heartbroken for your son. I hope that he is healing, he is being taken care of, that he is filled with love, peace, and just knowing that he is wanted, he is needed, and that he is safe. You guys tagged me in this so much. I literally had to make sure I got it out to you guys. I appreciate you guys as always. Bye.